In the last episode, we looked at a structural rust repair in the engine bay where the shock towers meet the frame rails. We cut the offending metal out, treated the rest with rust converter, made a repair panel, and then went down a weld-thru primer rabbit hole. With all that sorted, we were able to weld the panel in, and because this is lemons, did not have to grind back the booger welds and instead just hit the area with whatever paint we had on the shelf. Moving on to today's rust repair, the passenger side floor. What you see here are some factory paint drain holes. Unfortunately, nature has decided to enlarge them in some places, and add one or two more as well. To keep water and debris out, we've covered this one by riveting an aluminum plate under it. But I think we'll need something stronger for these two holes here, what used to be just two holes anyway. Before we start cutting the rotten metal out, it's worth thinking about what the replacement panel should look like. There are channels stamped into the floor, presumably to let paint drain towards the holes. The resulting ridges also provide some strength to the otherwise flat sheet metal, much like on the trunk floor you see here. If we want a decent fit for the repair panel, we should think about how to replicate them. The most legit way to put straight bends into a piece of sheet metal is a sheet metal brake, like this one. But given its design, it can only create bends that face the same direction, so it's unsuitable for the piece we need to fabricate here.
So, if you find yourself needing to put a bend in a piece of sheet metal and you don't have a brake, or it's a bend that you cannot do with a brake, then we need a different way of doing that. And my personal tool of choice is the press, unless it's something really simple and then a hammer and vise will do, and maybe a piece of pipe to form it around or something. But if it's anything where, like a step or a nice angle or something like that, especially if it's thick material, the press will really give you the mechanical advantage of doing a really nice job very quickly. And sometimes it pays off to build your own tool that goes into the press. And so what we see here, for instance, is a press brake. It'll make 90-degree angles or things up to 90-degree angles. And this one is a massive piece of equipment that can probably put a bend into a 1/4-inch steel easily. I made my own small version for 1/8-inch spreader plate or a 3mm spreader plate for our cage and seat mount, and it's just a very common piece of plate that you use when you build a race car. And this is a super small version, but the principle is essentially you have the die, which has the 90-degree angle in it, and you have the punch, which is just a blade that drives the sheet metal down into the die, and then thus creating the bend. And you can see it's just pieces of scrap metal that are just welded together. It helps to have a little piece of pipe to locate it in the press, and that's about it. And so that's just a small version of that. And anybody can build these sort of things.
Here's an example of using this press brake to put a step in some 1/8-inch metal plate.
Beautiful. Now we're in need of a step or a couple of steps in our panel, and these steps are actually quite common. They're used as strengthening ridges in the sheet metal around the bed or in other cars to just put some strength in the panel. And I've had to build panels like that in the past, and so again, I just built my own tool. It's not precision work, especially on a Lemons car. And you just find some scrap pieces, weld them together, and this will go into the press. And the principle is the same. This is the die, and it has the step in it, and then this is the punch, and it also has a step in it, and again a little piece of pipe to locate it. So we are tasked with making a new trunk panel, and we have to make lots of bends like this, offset bends. And I've made a little jig to do this for our hydraulic press. So it's a 2-part jig. It's this piece that is sort of like clamped into the press. This isn't moving. And then it's this stencil that is essentially the exact same thing, just in reverse. And when pressed together, it will make a sort of offset bend right there. I'm sure you can sort of imagine what that would look like. And so this is my little test panel here. And as you can see, I've already done one such bend. It was kind of crude, but I think it went pretty well. And as you can see, it's actually pretty very accurate in terms of what the bend should look like. So if it comes out like this, maybe a little smoother, I'll be very happy. So just to show you what it sort of how it works. At first, I sort of clamp my workpiece in here. So I've made some handy distance measurements that are parallel to the edge that we're bending to, because we can't see that. And so let's say, for instance, I want to make this at 120 millimeters. I just clamp my workpiece in here, kind of like that. So you can bend a little bit, we don't care. And so now I just apply the stamping part like this, and we go. And all I have to do is hold this at a 90-degree angle. All right, we're starting to bend, and I'm actually gonna let go now, just to show you nothing's happened. Well, we'll keep going. Very slowly. All right, now we're bending. All right, there it is. So we can see we've created one such bend. Now I went all the way just to show you guys. Probably for the final piece, what I will do is I will do this iteratively so that I don't get these ugly creases. So I will work my way across halfway and then go all the way in a second run. So anyway, so that's a little jig. Thank you. Thank you for watching this video about the bitter lemon, and remember to subscribe our channel.